The Express.
All right, well, welcome back to The Express. We're fortunate to have Nick Madrigal and Jan Gomes with us, two of my teammates on the Chicago Cubs, all around great people. So thanks for being here today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Thanks
man.
for joining us, fellas.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm gonna start with Jan because he's got such a unique story. So just tell us about your upbringing. Not many people know that you were born in Brazil, moved to Miami when you were young, and then just kind of, just talk a little bit through your childhood and kind of how you got to this point where we're at now.
All right, we got to make it a short version of it because we just kind of went over this. I think we'll cut into some other stuff. I was born in Brazil. Got introduced to baseball at a really young age. We had my my family's always been into sports, and my dad's a tennis coach, and just happened that he was coaching the only baseball coach in town, for the whole city of São Paulo. I was born in São Paulo, and the guy just asked us hey, you got kids, bring them around, let's see what they, kind of just a bunch of crazy kids we were. And and short side of it, I fell in love with it ever since. Then mom and dad decided to move to the US, had a job opportunity, and when we got here, baseball is obviously a huge American sport, and we just kind of fell right in. It was such an easy transition because I didn't speak a single word of English, but baseball talked. It was my way of making friends, and which I'm super grateful, super thankful for. And then and then obviously things led on to going to college and everything, and I went to the
We don't have to talk about where you went.
University of Tennessee.
Kid from Brazil to Tennessee.
Then we're here. Yeah. Then things fell into place, and I'm here.
Where did your parents move to when they came to the States?
To Miami.
Okay.
Yeah, so dad's a tennis player, mom's a swim coach. There was a job opportunity for my mom to kind of come in and help her brother, my uncle, at a swim school. And it was like a decision in July. We moved in August. So it was very quick goodbyes, and that was.
So how did this kid from Brazil to then Miami end up at Rocky Top?
Yeah. So it took a while because you talk about growing up and dreaming about baseball and stuff like that. I never had that. I didn't know anything. But I did know I loved baseball, and when there was opportunities to play, we talked a little bit these teams that you grew up playing with came along and started making friends, and then you start thinking about the college opportunity. And Rod Delmonico, who was the coach at Tennessee, recruited kind of heavily out of South Florida, and just happened that he came down to my high school, looked at us play, and gave me an opportunity to go to college.
What was it like when you took your first visit to Tennessee coming from?
Is it culture shock?
Is it
I think in that way we can all agree on. I think Tennessee is one of the most beautiful states ever. And it was such a different, but it's such a different, what I grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Miami, grew up in Brazil. It's kind of such a different spot. And when I get there and it's mountains, just a sea of orange, the most beautiful color out there.
Tough.
Yeah,
Tough.
it was. I fell in love with it literally at first sight. I literally made my decision on my first trip, so probably not. Wasn't a great idea on that, but it ended up being great.
But you knew.
But I knew right away.
It's like when I went to Nashville. It was like, This is where I'm supposed to be.
Exactly.
And you still live there.
I still live there.
So
Yeah.
you still calls it home.
Yeah. Met my wife there. And call it home.
Young Nicky Madge.
Sweet.
Lay it on me.
Yep. I don't think I have as exciting of a story as him. I from Northern California. Family was always a baseball family. I have an older brother, 5 years older.
And a twin brother.
Still
blows my mind every time I hear it.
Twin brother. He's got all the height, and he's a little bit bigger than I am. So, we were always at the fields growing up. It seemed like every single weekend we're packing up 7 a.m., going to a freezing cold tournament somewhere. And, I thought it was the coolest thing. I would always bat boy for my older brother, and like I would take that so seriously. I would like, run out, grab the bats, and like I thought that was the major leagues right there. Just being around my older brother and his team and friends, and I thought that was amazing. My twin brother would be off like in the stands eating a hot dog or something. I'd be just focused on not missing a bat. So I thought that was the coolest thing ever. So yeah, grew up doing that. Worked my way through high school. We were fortunate enough to have a good amount of talent at my high school. We had 3 guys sign out of high school. So we
Anybody
had
make it to the big leagues?
yeah, so we have pretty cool. We have maybe 5 or 6 guys from just the couple years I was there. We got Derek Hill. He played in the Tigers. Played with the Tigers. Rowdy Tellez, Blue Jays.
I didn't know that.
JD Davis with the Mets, the Astros, and then a couple other guys, older guys. But yeah, we got like 5 or 6 guys from our high school, so pretty cool.
No, that's unique. Because, I mean, and you end up playing with a lot of talent at Oregon State, too, which I think is so cool. And it shows you a lot about people when they are surrounded with talent and just, like, what that can kind of bring out of you. Jan, I don't know what your, like, the talent you play with growing up at Tennessee, but it is always cool, like, seeing guys that have come up through the ranks with other guys that end up being big leaguers. Like, on my 14-year-old travel team, we had 3 big leaguers on that team. It's just kind of like it's just cool, that you can.
I think that's why I was so fortunate. Like going through my high school, we had so much history behind it, and guys that even before I got in high school, there was guys in the big league. So like they would come around and kind of just tell us like what it was in a major league clubhouse and just like what it took, So I was pretty fortunate enough to have those guys around, and even going to Oregon State, there's such a long line and history behind that program, and guys that. From Jacoby Ellsbury to Darwin Barney, just all these guys that, are really good big leaguers, so we're able to kind of follow their footsteps. And, I was fortunate enough to pick Oregon State to learn all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. No, that's cool. I remember going out to Omaha. They used to host like 12-year-old tournaments, I think it was.
Yeah.
I remember going out there, and that would have been 06, which is kind of around like almost more or less like a heyday of like Oregon State was the best team. And I don't know if that was when they had won a couple in a row.
They went back to back 06 and 07. So yeah, it was pretty much.
Yeah, I remember being out there and like everyone's like wanting to buy their hat because they're the best team, in Omaha.
Never made it to Omaha.
Never made it?
Made it to Omaha.
The Bulls.
You made it. Y'all won, right?
Yeah, a couple times. Yeah, I won. My junior, sorry, just had to mention that. My junior year, we won. My sophomore year, we were coming in. We were the number 1 team in the country, and then ended up. We only lost. I think it was 4 games all year, and then we got to Omaha, and we made.
That was your sophomore year.
Yeah, we made it to the semifinals, and ended up losing back-to-back games for the first time the whole seseason. And
I remember
it
that.
was it was a big shock to us. We were supposed to win, but. Ended up winning my junior year, so it was pretty cool.
Who'd y'all beat? What, Arkansas?
Arkansas, yeah, it was crazy.
The missed pop up. I remember that.
Oof, it was crazy. Arkansas is not too far away from Omaha, so it seemed like a home game for them. So, man, they're crazy fans out there. It was pretty crazy.
Y'all ain't used to that.
I never experienced anything like that.
Yeah, they ain't used to that in the pack. Not built like that.
Man, they were crazy out there.
That's got to be one of the strangest chant. Just listen to people woo pig.
It's like intimidating when you like play there in the whole stadium. You're like
the
calling
whole
the pigs
stadium
home.
doing it. It was crazy.
It's wild.
Where would you rank the environment in Omaha, like as far as like the baseball?
So
obviously, like World Series, like
I always say, like that town thrives off of College World Series. Like that town is built for the College World Series, and they do an unbelievable job hosting. The people are incredible. Hotel, like the management said, everything is built for that tournament. Never got to play in Rosenblatt, which is kind of like your dream growing up. But TD Ameritrade, they might have changed it now, the name.
I think it's the same. I think.
But it was a little bit different just because it was so nice and new. Whereas Rosenblatt kind of had that like Wrigley vibe. It's just like it'd been there for a long time. It had its tradition, and so they're obviously kind of like formulating a little bit of a new tradition. It's been around for like 12 or 13 years now, but I mean, they pack it out. They really do.
Yeah,
they really do. People come from all over. All the locals go. Like it's they do a really, really good job. And I think that they've tailored it a little bit more around the game nowadays. Because first year we went in 14 when we won, we didn't hit a homer the whole time except for it will end up being the game winner. But like, because the field is huge.
Yeah, they made it too big. Yeah,
and that was back when it was like dead balls, dead bats. Like you had to just like stay off the barrel to get hits.
Yeah.
Was that the issue? Dead ball.
Yeah,
ball?
you know, I probably would
that
have
why
hit.
you
I
were a
probably would
slap
have hit
hitter?
a couple, but yeah, the dead balls. I feel like my bat wasn't good enough. Yeah, but probably during your time, you had the juice bats over at Tennessee.
Yeah, they
right?
did.
The orange
no,
Dells,
They're probably rolling the bats
yeah,
too.
you had all the good bats.
Okay, I
know
wasn't
anything
that far
about-
behind you guys. Okay, give it calm down there.
Yeah.
But yes, there was a composite time, and sometimes you wanted the bat to break before you actually used it in the game.
How many homers for you?
Not many.
Really?
Yeah, not many. Save
What
them all
Yeah.
still
but
save
when
them.
you were at Tennessee, that was when Vandy was really starting to get good.
Mhm.
The 07 Price
we're trying to get that
era.
out there.
Because you said you got there in 06, correct?
Yeah, so I
And
got
Price was 07. That was like his junior year.
so yeah, 06, 07. So I got our series weekend would be Price, Friday night, and then you had to face Casey Weathers to close.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Miner
Mm-hmm.
on Saturday, and then usually Casey
This
Weathers
was
to
to
close.
close. Yeah.
And then I think there's another big leaguer, Nick Christiani.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple other guys but then like you guys have bats. Like I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, Vandy
Pedro.
was starting to become that top of the line. Like, I mean, I don't want to say it's probably why you kind of went there, but they started becoming that like pinnacle. Like you kind of modeled your games after like what
Mhm.
Vandy was doing. You know, they were stacking with pitching. They were getting guys to want to go there, and
They
started
like
becoming
started
big
the like
time.
power pitching kind of like
Mhm.
trend in a way.
yeah, it wasn't
That's
very much
honestly,
fun.
I never even like really knew anything about Vanderbilt.
Mhm.
Like when my summer ball coach mentioned, "Hey, I think Vanderbilt would be a great fit," I kind of did the like,
Yeah.
they have a good baseball
So, yeah.
program. You know, like I didn't really know
Yeah.
much about it, and then went there on a visit, started to get to know more about it, and just fell in love with it. Obviously, I think the world of Coach Corbin, and we still keep in touch all the time.
And Nashville's not a bad city.
And Nashville's not a
Yeah.
bad city to
Right.
capitalize on.
Right.
But no, it's so like, and you played with what? Rutschman, right? At Oregon
Rutschman,
State.
yeah.
I mean, y'all had a bunch of
Yeah,
big
we
leaguers.
had
Like,
yep. So there's Stephen Kwan with the
Mhm.
Guardians. There's Trevor Larnick. He's with the Twins. Drew Rasmussen is with the Rays. Was with the Brewers. We got a couple
Pretty
other
stacked.
guys.
I mean-
Yeah, play pro ball. So yeah, we had a really good.
you're all the
recruiting
same
class.
age.
Right around. Fretchman was a year younger, but the other guys were all the same class. So yeah, it was so much fun going there.
I bet.
Yeah, so much fun.
I bet.
How do you think your time, I guess for both of you at your respective colleges, kind of prepped you for that next step? Because I think there's definitely a difference of guys going to certain schools and they're like, oh, I was definitely prepared a little bit more than others to take that step, whether it's because of coaching, experiments, environment, players. But how do you think where you guys went to school prepared you to be successful?
Yeah. So I think for me, and we kind of talk about a little bit about this, when you're going to we talked a little bit about our high schools, and most of the time, like a lot of us are the top players in our high school. We hit a ridiculous amount, like, most guys 400, 500, 600, whatever. But then when you get to college, it kind of changes. And you start getting a little humbled. You start playing in these divisions that are super talented. And my first couple games, or actually, let's back it up even more. My first game was against Florida State.
Back in the heyday, too.
And back in Posey was, big time guy there. And
Take off his gear, close.
yeah.
Seriously,
So
that's
I'm
right.
stepping up there, and you got these fans yelling at you. So you're like, what in the world's going on? Like, this is a bigger thing. And then we obviously go into SEC play, and it's like everybody that you was good growing up was on a team there. So it was like the high level, and this is not just the SEC or wherever Oregon State is.
Pac-12, but
Well, no
come on.
longer,
Yeah.
no longer.
RIP.
I think it separated guys a little bit, and it taught you how to like create your routines and really decide on what kind of player. Which, I mean, when you get to pro ball, you develop a little bit more, but it definitely taught you how to be more mature a little bit more and step up your game a little
Say
bit.
like time management, especially just like
That's right.
I think all the on-field stuff can kind of speak for itself because you get into some structure. You obviously like, get in a weightlifting routine, but the time management and the actual like life part, I feel like is something that really was a separating factor going to college because
Yeah.
Yeah, you still like got your parents that can kind of help you through some stuff, and some coaches that obviously care about you, but you're kind of on your own for the first time. And you feel like you have to kind of figure your own life out a little bit. And it's just a great time going to college to be able to figure it out. And you're doing something bigger than yourself. I mean, most people that play college are trying to recreate that experience once they get in the pro ball just because of the relationships. And
Right.
I think obviously we do a pretty good job with that with the Cubs, but most people are kind of like searching back for like, hey, how can we create a culture and a standard for what we want to do as a group? And no, I think college is.
Yeah.
I don't know. Was yours the same?
Yeah, I would agree with you on the on-field play, but like you said, the off-the-field play, like just from bus rides to travel to the schedule, like it's such a big jump from high school to college, just schedule-wise, off the field. Like you really got to figure, you can't really slack off, at least at our program. You cannot get away with slacking off and, going out and then waking up at 6 a.m. for weights. Like you got to have some type of discipline. I feel like everyone at our level, like you got to have some type of discipline to show up every single day to play. It's not guys that are hitting the town, and waking up and playing every single day. It's like if you really want to play at this level, you got to find it. And I think that's what college really taught a lot of guys. And just like if you're serious about it, the guys are gonna get drafted high. Like they're not messing around. But the guys that wanted to go party, like baseball's probably not for them. So
You get weeded out a little bit when you get
sure.
when you get to college.
It definitely, to your point, Dan, I mean, like the culture and everything, it taught a lot like accountability. Like you're saying, there was times. I mean, you had the 6 a.m. workouts, and some guys would be late, and what would happen? Like you run extra, so you start getting mad at each other, but then you still have to go practice, and you're still friends. And yeah, it at least for our coaching side, they did a good job. Like it's not about like just bury that guy because he was late. Like it's about like, hey man, like let's hold each other accountable. Like show up. Like we're all doing this. And if we don't, you're going to, be the guy sitting there on a chair watching us all run up and down gate 10 and be super mad at you the whole time while we're doing it.
Right.
And I feel like that's a pretty common story that at least once a year happens to a lot of guys in college.
Yeah. And then go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it's very interesting that obviously the on-field play is going to, if you're good at baseball, you're probably going to be good at baseball. You're going to have to work at your craft, develop your craft, etc. But the thing that makes you guys be able to make it the next level is the little details that you learn at your schools and your off time management, or like you talk about, like, when guys start taking it a little bit more serious, they develop a routine before the game. Like you can start seeing them dial in what they do before the game or the night before or the travel days, or all that stuff starts to add up over time.
I think it gives you such a good opportunity to like just mature and learn, because I keep going back to the off the field stuff, because I think Corvs does such a great job at Vandy with like just teaching life skills to be able to, he always says like, I want to develop y'all to be great baseball players, but at the same time, I want y'all to be great husbands. I want you to be great people. And because not everyone's going to make it to pro ball. And guess what? At the end of the day, pro ball is only a short period of time anyways. And I feel like just maturity as like a man and understanding what leadership actually looks like what it actually means to serve one another and love one another and hold one another accountable. Because in college or in high school, it's kind of is what it is. And then you get to college and it's like, no, like this is kind of more or less our livelihood. And no, I just think it's such a great time. I know everyone's got their own path. Some people go out of high school, but I don't think I could have made it out of high school. I don't think I was good enough. Don't think I was as mature as I was. I felt like I wasn't. Now seeing what I see, I wasn't mature enough to handle some of the adversity or some of the challenges that come with it.
Yeah, I agree. I had a chance to come out of high school. Some guys from my high school I played with signed out of high school, so I was kind of wanting to sign out of high school. I played with a lot of guys that were going in the first, second, third round, and the best opportunity I got was around the third round. I didn't get drafted in the third round, but that was like the offer, and I felt a certain way that all the people I played with were on TV getting drafted before me. I just decided college was the best route for me. I kind of wanted to prove them wrong, and I can't imagine passing up college. It was not only the baseball, but it was the most fun I ever had with the guys. Like I formed some of my best friendships there, and just I had played with those guys that came out of high school and they were in the minor leagues while we were playing for a Pac-12 championship in Omaha, and like, I actually ended up like beating them through the minor, and that's a scout told me, like, if you go to college, usually they develop guys and move them through the minors a little bit faster. So I kept that in the back of my mind, and it was the best time of my life going to college. So I'm glad it did.
I think that's kind of how I started to look at it too, of what am I really wanting out of this, right? Like, you can go directly into it, or you can go the college route. And I felt that the college route for me personally was going to lead to future success and not necessarily just like the gratification of I'm in pro ball, like I feel like that was the necessary step for me. But moving into pro ball, was it like a culture shock? Was it, what was like your initial reaction to once you got into pro ball?
I mean, like I was saying earlier, I did not know like what anything on that next level was supposed to look like. So when I got to college, like I said, like I started seeing how big it was, and then you're like, hey, you got a chance to be drafted. I'm like, to where? Like, what do you mean? And then it was like, oh, this team wants to come watch you play, and I was like, oh, this is insane. And then you get drafted to become a professional baseball player. Like, what a dream come true, right? Mm-hmm. And then you get sent to Auburn, New York to go play in the Penn League, where you're talking about 10-hour bus rides in a tiny bus, and you're going back and forth. You're sleeping in probably not the greatest hotels. And you're like, pro ball? And to talk about the maturity level, that's where, to me, from what led to college and like really learning to take care of yourself, really like transformed in that time. Because I'm like,
give you a little bit of a leg up.
I do not want to be here. Like, and it wasn't like I don't want to be here. I want to be home. It was like, no, I'm doing everything I can to figure
out. Need to play better. Need to play better.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, I'm going to put as much work as I can. No one's going to outwork me. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to make sure that I can, get out of here. Mm-hmm. Nothing against Auburn, New York. But it was just like, I didn't know Auburn, New York existed. So you get
kid from Miami takes on, kid from Brazil takes on Auburn, New York.
So, and then you start, and this is where I think we've all seen it, where the talent and maturity level starts weeding out. Everybody wants to get a shot. I think we've heard this millions of times, but then you get your shot and you're like, this kind of blows. Like, this minor league level kind of things, it's like, it's not as fun. But then you're like, what are you doing it for? And this is where that maturity level comes in, and you're like, I want to make it to the big leagues. I want to, test myself, and you start kind of learning to enjoy it, and you start learning to play for the right reasons. And but that culture shock, man, getting to the minor leagues, it was, you don't like it, play better kind of day.
It's different. It is different.
It's kind of interesting how that sort of works, because I think when you're a kid, obviously you're playing for the enjoyment of the game, and then you get kind of lost a little bit as you're getting recruited into college, or you get an opportunity to play college, and then all of a sudden you're getting scouted, and then it's like you get thrown into what is pro ball technically, but it's really going to test how much do you love the game, and then you have to learn to play it the right way and love it. And because if you don't, you're probably gonna get weeded out as well.
Yeah, and I don't know if y'all experience this, but I think the toughest challenge for me going into pro ball was when you're in college, it's all about winning, right? Mm-hmm. Like, everything you do is for the betterment of the group to win. And then you get in the minor leagues and it's not that way. It's all about player development. We're up 5-3 in the ninth, and we're bringing in the kid that's got an 80 RA because our real closer has, he threw yesterday and they're not throwing him back-to-backs. So we're throwing this guy in because he needs to develop, because he's got a chance to be good, or he's got a good arm. And we're sitting there like, what are we doing? Like, isn't the whole point like for us to win a game? And that to me was like the biggest culture shock, really, was, oh my gosh, it's really about me playing well. And I think that is a little bit of a challenge in this day and age, is it's so heavily focused on you just do your thing. Yeah. And then you get to the big leagues and it goes back to, no, it's actually all about winning. And being able to balance the two was...
I was fortunate enough to play for some managers that were about winning. And they were also about teaching you how to be a pro. I think that's that mentality that people don't necessarily... It's like, just develop. Like, you use your talents, get your potential out. Like, let's see. And then instead of like, learn how to become a pro, learn how to win, learn how to play the game the right way. I was fortunate enough in that.
You drafted by Cleveland?
No, I was drafted by Toronto. First made it
South
through
Sauna.
Toronto. There you go. So exactly. I mean, we can get into that, but yeah, I was very fortunate in that. And to talk a little bit, I think when growing up as a kid and dreaming about making it to the big leagues, that's where we go from. Right? We go from kid playing high school, college to like big leagues.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of forget those steps in the
gosh.
middle.
Yeah.
That's a big.
So then
yeah.
it's like you're just like, what this is pro ball. Like we're enjoying the pro ball lifestyle, and we're not even there yet.
Yeah, there's so
So
many things that people do not see in the minor leagues behind the scenes, from spreads that are, PB&Js, there's bus rides, there's overnight bus. I mean, there's so many things.
You're
that,
sleeping in the chair just like this,
Yeah,
and then you
it
got to
is.
play a game the next
Yeah,
day.
you gotta wake up and play. Like I remember, obviously it was my dream. Everything. I thought pro ball would be amazing. Like there was times at the lower levels, I'm like, how bad do I want this? You know what I mean? Like is this what I want to do?
Yeah.
But like
My body hurts.
yeah. I mean, there's so many things that come with it, but like, at the end of the day, you got to figure out, why you're playing. What's your, again, your dream, my support system around me. Like, there's so many things I'm playing for, more than myself. So, but I'll tell you, those minor league, those lower levels are no fun at all.
You were drafted in what?
18.
18.
Yeah, 18. So, I mean, I think a lot of people get mad. Like, I wasn't in the minors that long, but like, it was still like the worst time. Or like it was. I don't care. I
wasn't either. I wasn't either.
It's
People
like
like you
years.
didn't even
every
experience
second,
it,
I
and I'm
hated
like,
every second of it.
Yeah.
So it's just it only like motivated me more to try to get out of there. But it's not fun at those levels.
no. It's
Thanks for letting me be in the room
I
with you
mean,
two
yeah,
guys that
yeah.
spent about
Come on now.
how many
half
years
a
did you
season.
spend in the
How
minor
many?
leagues?
It wasn't very long either.
Yeah,
It was
see.
3 years.
That's
But you started out as an infielder, correct?
So
Or you did both?
Kinda, yeah. So I was junior year of college. I was starting to like do this super utility thing, and then I got drafted as a catcher. I went through the minor leagues as a catcher, and started getting like log jammed between people because we had some really good talent. Actually, one of your teammates, Travis Darno, was one of the guys in front of me. So my idea was go up to Sal, go up to John Farrell at the time, and some of those guys would be like, "Yeah, I can play different positions."
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't quite sure if I could or not, but I was like, "Hey, I need to get at bats. I need to play." So that gave me the opportunity to play different positions and to go advance.
So then what's funny is we don't talk a lot about like people ask, well, what's the difference in the big leagues and the minor leagues? And I think nowadays it's probably never been greater, just because they have cut so much. And just the mentality is a little bit different. It's a lot of like a big youth movement. But what was your kind of like welcome to the big league moment? Because I mean, I got mine. I definitely got mine.
Like good or bad? Bad, probably bad.
Usually they are bad.
So this is what kind of like, in a way, transformed me to be more responsible for game planning. So we're playing as a catcher. Yeah. So we're playing in Milwaukee, and I just remember going through. We were doing like the pitchers meeting and stuff like that, and they're like, "Hey, Aramis Ramirez, do not throw him a slider. His slugging is a billion off of a slider. Do not throw him a slider." And I'm like, "Come on, like, all right."
Yeah.
So I'm calling the game. We're going through it, and it got to a place in the game where I'm like,
Slaughter makes
and
sense.
this is, by the way, I'm like, they told me to do this, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, it got to a place where I was like, we had gone heater in, heater away, chain, like all these kinds of things, and I'm like, good shot to do it, right?
Yeah.
Right. Call it, pretty decent one, down and away. Wow.
He was thinking the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like this guy never misses a slider. So that's when I look back into the dugout, and the pitching
faces.
coach is just like, what? All right. And I was like, touche. All right. I'm going to make sure that I'm extremely well prepared. And so that was one of the, you talk about the different, like from minor leagues, like you get exposed in the big leagues quicker now. Like people realize things quicker. There's guys that you throw it there, they're not going to miss it.
Yeah.
Like it's just why they're there. This is
The margins aren't as big. Like
Exactly.
the room for error is just not as big
exactly
when you get to the big leagues.
That was one of the spots there that was cool.
What about a positive note? Like
Yeah.
at what at what moment were you like, this is where I'm supposed to be? Not that you had done anything crazy, but you were confident in where you were, and I would say trending upwards maybe from that moment.
Man, I feel like I've definitely, spent some time now in the big leagues that I've never like really had that moment where I'm like, no, this is where I'm supposed to be. One of the cool moments though was, I get called up in Toronto and I'm walking into my locker. I'm, super giddy and all that. And I'm walking in and I put my stuff in my locker that they, assigned me. I look over and it's Omar Vizquel, my locker mate. And I'm like, where am I? Like, I don't think this is
That's cool.
talking about like, oh, this is where I belong. I was like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. But that was one of the cool things, and I'll always share that story because Omar Vizquel was, one of the, cool
Best
dudes to
shortstops.
like watch play, and he was a phenomenal.
Didn't need
guy
a
that
glove.
Exactly.
Didn't
man.
need a
One of
glove.
the best barehand players in the game, and and that was one of the coolest moments where I was like, wow, like, what am I doing right now? So
Yeah.
kind of learn to, get your teeth kicked in a little bit and then kind of move on. And, we talked a little bit about, going down and getting back up. And that was one of that first year in the big leagues, you kind of get humbled quickly and then it takes into your maturity.
Yeah, I had a little bit different of time. When I first came up was during the COVID year, so we didn't have any fans in the stadiums. We had fake crowd noise, it was just a completely different.
Falcons
to the
home
big leagues.
game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I still thought it was the coolest thing ever, but everyone was kind of telling me like, just wait till you can hear a packed stadium and the crowd roar. And so I would say maybe the next year when, so I was with the White Sox and the first home opener, I had my family in the stands, and to see them in the stands and me on the field, I just I almost got a little bit emotional just because of how much sacrifice they made for me to be in that position. I think that was the moment that I felt like, okay, like, we made it. Like, this is something that will, carry on like our, family's name, and just, I wouldn't have been there without them. So I would say probably that moment. I don't know if I have, a bad story or anything yet, knock on wood, but I would
There's
say
never like mine was we were facing Verlander.
Good way to start.
Last
Yeah.
game. It was the last game of the year I'd gotten called up in 2016. And it was a do or die game for them. They had to win to have a chance for the playoffs.
I was at this game.
It was the last game at Turner Field, too.
yeah.
So kind of like both in the same, like good and bad. Got to close out Turner being from Atlanta, like pretty cool story. And I remember facing Verlander, and everyone was kind of like, hey, man, like you got to get him early. Like if you don't get him early, you don't got a chance. So first at bat, I remember like first pitch fastball, and I hit a hard kind of like comebacker really that he snagged and threw me out. So next at bat, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take one. I'm going to see one. Auto take, throws me the curveball, and dude, he buckled me, and I wasn't even gonna swing. Like he buckled me. I'm like, this is the big leagues. Like, dude, I remember we won 1-0. Julio Teheran was pitching for us. We won 1-0. Julio punched out like 14. Verlander, we scored one in the first. It was like Ender Inciarte base hit, like stolen base, get him over, sack fly him in, win 1-0. It was the most like
Sick.
unbelievable.
Funny moment of that day. That's also the same day Tennessee threw a Hail Mary versus Georgia for a W.
Juwan Jennings?
It was who was
Josh
it?
Dobbs, right?
Josh
Dropped to
Dobbs.
Juwan Jennings.
You remember that because all of our buddies are huge Georgia
I
fans.
came down
He's
to-
an Ohio State fan.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
So we give him.
I
I
came
don't
down-
really give him because it's kind of like crime on crime for me. Like it's not a
Yeah.
matchup I enjoy. But
It just got brought up in the Super Bowl because Juwan Jennings caught a touchdown, threw a touchdown. So and he
Oh,
was the
yeah.
one that caught that touchdown from Dobbs.
it's wild.
Yeah, that's
Crazy
crazy.
story.
Crazy story.
Moving forward, I guess just a little bit like off the field stuff. I know we're all pretty involved in chapel and faith life. Jan, I know you do a bunch of work outside the field just with some different charity stuff. UPI, which is Unlimited Potential, which is a group that does a lot of Bible studies for baseball, and then Peterson Outdoors to Ministries that, correct me if I'm wrong, but you host hunting trips, outdoor trips basically for veterans. You just want to touch on that and just kind of the work that y'all do and have done. And
Sure. Yeah. So they kind of go together for me because so UPI is a baseball ministry for baseball players by baseball players.
Mm-hmm.
It's a super comfortable play. Like they do a lot of events, a lot of ministry work. One of my best friends, Luco Traver, works for UPI, so he's gotten me involved with it. Whether it's Bible studies in the off season, we lead a bunch of the guys at home. So with Peterson Outdoors, is Luke is a massive outdoorsman. He introduced me to hunting. Like we're together every day, out on the blind, and he started hosting Wounded Warrior Vets, and this is kind of where it kind of gelled together with Peterson Outdoors, where they take in veterans and just kind of get them away and just come hang out with the guys. And I got super passionate about it because when I was in Cleveland, we had a really good group of the PR and off the field guys, mm-hmm. and our marketing, or not marketing, but like our charity guys that would bring veterans in. And man, I started to realize like how much just like coming up to them and just like normalizing in a way things for them meant. And with Peterson Outdoor and UPI, it's not just like, hey, let's get away, let's go have some fun. We were also bringing, the word to them and like teaching them, just God-like things, like just how to hang out and like how to turn to God and bringing your identity in it. And, these guys are going through some really tough times. And, at the end of the day, we just want to be like, hey, God loves you. Like, don't worry about your flaws. Like, he will take you in. His arms are wide open for you. And that was kind of like, yeah, it was a cool thing to bring them in, but it was a cool thing for just being involved in it, because those guys have some unbelievable stories that they've gone through, and it kind of puts things into perspective. And yeah, it's been something that I've been super passionate with, and they mean a lot to my faith life.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Nicky, Madge, you got any?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, my mom was kind of the head of our making sure we're putting our faith first, and really keeping our family in the Word. And so everything I've learned has come from her. And she had a tough upbringing and family life, so she eventually found her faith on her own. And I was fortunate enough to kind of find the ways through her. So even to this day, if I ever have questions or anything in my life, like I call her and she answers every time. Like she's everything.
Moms do.
Yeah, she's my rock, like everything. So my faith is still a work in progress. I'm still on my own journey and trying to figure it out. From I think that's why I'm so thankful this last year. We got pretty close in the Bible chapel for the Cubs, and like just
got a
hearing,
great group. We really do.
Just hearing some of the guys' like stories just really puts things into perspective of like baseball is just a game, and like people are dealing with so many things outside of the field. You know what I mean? Like I thought it was pretty special last year to be able to go up to Jan and just ask him, questions about the Bible, and there's no judgment. There's no like dumb question when it comes to that. You know what I mean? And it's just,
how could you not know this about
it just feels like such a welcoming environment. And like, I'm just so thankful for that. And I think even moving into this next year, that's one of the things I'm kind of looking forward to, is kind of, advance my, faith and really get in the Word.
Yeah. No, I think that's so key. And that's honestly a big reason why we do this, is just to have these conversations, in a way, almost normalize having these kind of conversations, talking about Christ, talking about our faith, talking about what it really means to be, a father. You have 3 kids, being a husband. Nicky Madge is newly engaged, kind of going down that path of like, what does it mean to actually serve the Lord? What does it mean to actually love my wife like Christ loved the church? Like, openly have these kind of conversations. Mason's a new dad. You got a 6.5-month-old.
He's almost 7 months.
Almost 7 months. So like being able to have these conversations, and I mean, we were created to have a strong community, right? We were created to be unified with one another, and being able to, even just like these kind of little moments are so key for me, and keep us going. And I just think it's so important to have these kind of conversations, and we're fortunate to be able to do this. And one of our best friends who's not here normally does this with us as well, being able to just like stay close and talk about the right things. We just started almost like a prayer group text with all of our buddies back home, of like, if there's something going on in your life, I'm almost offended if I don't know about it because I need to be putting that on my prayer schedule. You know, like I need to be having those kind of conversations with God and asking for these things and praying for these things. Because that's what we're here for. We're not meant to do this by ourselves.
Yeah, and I think the normalization of the conversation is just so good because, especially for people like y'all, you know, they look at you like I tell Dansby all the time, like, you know, as crazy as it is, he's someone's idol or hero or whatever. You know what I mean?
They don't know all the other stuff.
Yeah, but to hear him talk about his faith or us talk about our faith or you guys is even so big because I think there is just such a not a hush hush, but it's just not talked about as much as it should be. I don't know if it's a stereotype or people just don't feel comfortable about it, but just trying to normalize talking about it. Cause like you said, like you guys have a great group with the Cubs and yes, you guys are all professional baseball players and, you know, the guys that people pay to go see, but you're normal people as well. Like people ask all the time, I'm a school teacher, so what's it like, you know, being with these guys? I'm like, they're just like me and you talking. They're just people, but you guys see them put on a uniform and idolize them. But everyone is going through something, and it's okay to talk about what you're going through and to definitely pray for it and get in the book and get in the Word. And the Word is powerful. So
Yeah.
I think one of the well, it's super cool to just like this to just be able to sit and comfortably chat, because I think we try to create that in our group with our chapel, or even we go into a city and you go up to a chapel in Pittsburgh and you're like, dude, what's up? You go to the Reds, like it becomes like Arizona here with Hamo, and you're like, like, hey, it's like so cool to see them. So then it becomes this tight family. One of the things that's been stirring in my heart is the identity crisis that we've like gone, because kind of like what you're saying, like, why can't we talk about it? Because we're gonna get backlash from it. And like, oh man, like I'm a baseball player. And no, man, it's like, we bring who we are to baseball. It's not, don't let baseball dictate who you are. That's not that we're going to get lost in that because we're going to be chasing our tail. This guy's going to say something, so I'm going to become this way because it's going to look cool. Like it's who we are, right? And there's no shame in that. Like Christ never like downs a person. So if we're living, for the audience of one, he's never saying like, hey, you stink. Like he's never saying like, you're not enough. I'm not going to welcome you.
Right.
And just like to learn to trust that. Learn to trust that he loves you.
I love how he's referring to Brian Halma, who's been a long time chaplain for the Arizona Diamondbacks. He runs our Arizona Spring Chapel. He works at UPI and he always talks about it all the time. He always does like this hand motion. He's like, take who you are into baseball. Yeah. Baseball doesn't define who you are, but take who Christ made you be and bring that every day into your work, and you'll get a lot more fulfillment. And he's like, and not saying that's a guarantee, but usually guys end up playing better because the pressure is now off to perform, because I'm not performing for this game. I'm performing for, and not even performing for Christ. I'm taking who he's made me and I'm allowing that to shine a light or to change someone's life, in the game, or even a fan or whoever it may be, and being able to lead them by how I'm living.
That's good. I totally agree what you just said. Like, I can't tell you how much more free I feel when I'm just, in the Word, like in my faith, like just that's the top priority. I think there's so many times throughout a baseball season, with the whole schedule, just everything, they kind of start slipping to, down the list a little bit. But when I, am focused on the Word and really my faith and my relationship with Christ, like, can't tell you how much better I feel. And just like the pressures of the world and everything, like they don't matter as much. You know what I mean? It doesn't hit you as hard. Like I can't even explain it. Like, it's just so much easier to navigate the things of the world when you have the relationship with Christ. Like I wish everyone could experience it,
We get asked all the time about, how do you start, right? Because usually starting is one of the toughest parts. So if someone were to say, hey, Jan, I'm really interested in the Word, or I have some background in faith. I grew up in church, but I'm really wanting to kind of dive into my faith life, and I want to start reading the Bible again. How do they start?
So to me, right out of the get-go, is first of all, that's already a start. It's, showing the interest, opening yourself up, one, to somebody else to ask. Like, and two, one of the ways that I look at it is God never intended it for us to go through life alone. So turn to someone, turn to a buddy of yours. If you're asking that person, like I would ask you, like, hey man, like, can you help me out? And then we can go many directions, because that person will have, lead you through something. And then at the end of the day, start going through the Gospels, turn to the New Testament. I know the Old Testament is very hard to read because it's going to confuse you a little bit. So turn to the Gospels, turn to Mark, Luke, John. Like it'll start, like you start breaking it down, like, oh, this is how Jesus came in. This is how Jesus lived. And then, oh shoot, now Jesus is walking his way to sacrifice himself for us. We can get deeper into that, but I think one of the ways that to me is just turn to somebody that you trust, turn to a brother in Christ, and just be like, hey, let's walk together. And I mean, I love reading. There's definitely ways into that, but I'd love to say like the best answer is just open the Bible. Mm-hmm. Like really, it's the living word. It will, if your heart is asking for it, it will shoot you a message. It's sometimes it's like it doesn't mean anything then you'll start to kind of like marinate in, and you're like, oh, I'm starting to get it. Yep. Like, yeah, opening up, asking someone is already a start for me. Yep. And then turning to somebody.
One thing Hamo said last year that I will never forget, that still like resonates now, is he said like God's words are infinite. If God spoke something and it's in the Bible, that is forever. God's words, there's no ending. There's no ending to his words. And starting to read the Bible with that perspective of whether it's God speaking through someone, or whether it's, through Jesus, his son, or whatever the case, like those words last forever. And so they applied then, they apply now, and they'll apply long after we're here. Yep. And that I remember hearing them like, oh my gosh, like, because he was going over the story of when the storm comes, they're on the little boat, crossing the sea. And before God or Jesus is saying like, we're going to make it to the other side. And they're all freaking out. Like, we're not going to make it. He's like, no, we're going to make it because I said we're going to make it, and just like that. I remember that just like really hit me of that. Yes, it's the living word, because his words never go away.
Yeah. It's a story in Peter, which means like it's his rock. Like Peter was so fighting for him, and he's like, and Jesus is like, hey, step out on the boat. I got you. And he does. And he's like, oh my goodness, I got this. But then what do we do when life hits us? We start doubting a little bit. And then what happens to Peter? He starts to like, and that's just kind of how it is, and
when he's focused on Jesus, he's walking on water. When he starts worrying about the crap that he's in, he looks down at the water, he starts sinking. It's like, well, no, the moral of the story is focus on Jesus. The other stuff doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Preach.
Or when the power of belief in him will do you
carry
wonders.
You through.
Yeah. The impossible becomes possible.
I just love how in our game and UPI, they do such a great job with it, is being able to connect anyone and everyone from all types of backgrounds, languages, to be able to come together for one greater purpose. No matter, like you said, we're in Pittsburgh on a Sunday. Well, there's the chaplain's going to be preaching the same message as someone's hearing in San Francisco. And I think that's so powerful to create that unitedness, that community within the game itself.
That's been one of the coolest focus. And I don't know if Nick, you want to jump in. It's like you said, like so there's a conference called PAO that we all go to during the off season. And you start seeing your other brothers in Christ, like in baseball. And then when like a chapel comes in and you start talking to them, and somebody else is going to, there's been conversations that I've had like on base. I'm like, hey man, like, what did you think about, what we were going through? And knowing that I've seen that guy, like he would be like, oh yeah. And then it kind of brings us all back to like, I don't know. I'm not trying to like pinpoint that like, hey, my focus is always on this, but like, at the same time, you're like starting to learn to trust each other, because like you said, like there's someone on the other side. They're going through the same thing you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I said it earlier, I touched on it, but like, I think that's why I'm most thankful to be on this team. It's just, you're able to ask some of the older guys about whether it's life stuff, whether it's baseball stuff, like I was on another team before, and it wasn't that way. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't able to go up to an older guy and say, you know, if I'm dealing with something off the field, like, what should I do? I know we joke a lot, but like, I ask you a lot of life stuff, and you're pretty quick to answer, and I'm super thankful for that. You know, I think you've helped me in so many ways, but like, I'll tell you, like, this game's not easy. There's things that are going on in people's lives, like, we need each other throughout a long season. You know, a lot of these guys are away from their families or wives. Like, it's not easy, you know, and, you know, like we were talking about, to be able to come together in Christ, come together as a team, all of it, like, it's just, it makes it so much fun to be together, you know?
So powerful. It really is. I mean, I said the best teams hang out together. The best teams are close and would do anything for the person next to them. And it is so awesome that feel like we've done a good job of creating that, and it can only get better, you know. Especially I think about that, like in my second year, kind of was a little weird, you know, like at first I just felt like I was like the new kid on the block, and you know, very much accepted with open arms. And then coming into year 2, it's like, yeah, we all have relationships now, you know, we can all formulate an even closer bond and grow an identity together, you know, as a team, and you know, away from the field and all that kind of stuff. Last thing I really want to hit on is just I guess advice to younger kids. And we kind of said off air, like, if I had access to Nomar Garcia-Parra or Derek Jeter or whoever growing up, and the conversations and advice that they would give, that would have meant the world to me. And so I'd love to kind of hit on, like, if you were to, whether it's give advice on development as a player, development as a person, some lessons that you would tell your younger self, what would that look like?
I got it. You got it.
I mean,
you're gonna have to go too, brother.
No, I know. I'll think about it, because you know, you get asked that question, you know, a lot, because, you know, us being at the level that we're at, people think that we know it. We know how, but at the same time, it was somebody else that, you know, hit us and gave us some kind of advice when we were younger. You know, for me, it was Justin Masterson, and it hit me pretty big. It was super early in my career, and one of the things he says, it was, you know, we're gonna go through stages of our career wanting like we're playing comparison the whole time. Like, man, like, I can be that guy. I can search for him. If we played the game for that reason, to like, I want that big contract, I want that big thing, we're gonna get lost, and it's gonna, you know, hit us with a lot of expectation, a lot of like weight. But if you play the game for the right reasons, you do things the right way, you look out for your teammate. You know, there's a huge misconception on leadership. You know, like, if you learn to lead the right way, this game has a way of taking care of you, whether it's keeping you in the game. And we have to, you know, obviously I don't want to talk about like change the sites of success, but like learning the leadership of like how to like pick each other up, and like learning how to like, it's not about the guy at the top. It's, you know, it's not about you just being the guy at the top. It's about you like picking that guy up at the bottom and bringing him all back up. So we start forming as a team.
Oh, so it's not pulling from the top, it's pushing from the bottom.
Exactly. So it's like, to me, that was one of the coolest advice, which I got as a young rookie, and it stuck to me, and it took a weight off my shoulder. We've already talked a little bit about that. It's like, yeah, dude, we all want to, you know, make the money and, you know, play for the right reasons, or play for those things. But like, at the same time, if you play for the right reasons, learn to have that trust from the manager that he's never going to doubt that you're, you know, lacking or anything. It's attitude and effort that he's like, I got that.
Yeah.
I got that.
It's so funny you say that, because when I was trying to get recruited for college, I was a fine baseball player. I knew what I was doing. I was a coach's kid, you know, so I kind of knew the game really well.
Fine baseball.
But I wasn't that good. I really wasn't. I was
The most southern way of
I didn't.
Swell, man.
I wasn't big enough yet. I wasn't strong enough yet. I love basketball, so I spent a lot of time. So you're still getting there, Mitch.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
I spent a lot of time on the basketball court, so I never really dedicated all my time to baseball. And just hearing you say that just reminded me, I laugh about with Corbs all the time. I was like, why were you recruiting me? Like, no one else really wanted me. And he said, well, we thought that like you were athletic enough that you could be good. But he's like, the separating factor was like watching how you interacted with teammates. He's like, that's what
good.
sold me.
Cool.
It's like how you interact with teammates when they're going on and off the field.
Yeah.
Like that's when I knew.
That's awesome.
And it just kind of points to your thing of how we treat people in this game, how you treat your teammates. Like that matters. That matters. And that could be the difference in me going to school or not. I mean, you never know. God's got his plan written, but you just never know how your treatment of others can lead to great things in this game.
Yeah,
So
I agree. I think the advice I would tell younger people and in the baseball world, even in life, like to surround yourself with like people, where you want to go. If looking over my life, like I went to a middle school that wasn't the best, wasn't, a private school that had some, bad kids and guys that weren't doing things that I wanted to do.
they were in private school because they were doing bad.
Yeah,
Parents
no,
trying to straighten them out.
But there was a point in my life where, I was playing baseball. I had my friends off the field and then I would go to school and there's kids that are doing things that are not good at all. And I was kind of hanging around them. And I remember there was a point where I completely disconnected myself and went to a different high school and everything was fine. I started getting recruited and all that, but like I easily could have kept hanging around those guys. And I feel like my career, my life, everything could have went completely different. You know what I mean? Like I think that speaks, it's more powerful because there was throughout the college recruitment process, like they did so many like background checks, like everything who I hung out with, like if there's one bad person in your group or like doing something wrong, like it could reflect on you. You know what I mean? Like
it takes 10 seconds to ruin 10 years of work.
Right. Right. So I think that would be the biggest advice I would say is just to kind of surround yourself with people that are, not better than yourself, but where you want to go and what you want to do.
What about you? You're the high school teacher.
Nah, I would just love to see Corb's scouting report on like Mitchell, Zach, and Logan. In high school.
All my friends. Yeah. Good gosh.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're in it. Like you see it.
I'm in it. Yeah, I'm in the thick of it.
It still cracks me. I went to his class one time. This was 8 years
Many
ago.
moons ago.
I was like, I want to go watch Mason teach.
What grade is it?
Well, at that time, I was teaching freshmen, but
Okay.
as of last year,
Geography.
I told them
freshman geography.
Yeah,
Let me tell you.
I told them if I taught freshmen again, I was going to resign. And so I was like, you can either move me or I'm going to quit.
Dude, I'll never forget this. I'm sitting. He's up front teaching. Like just started his lesson plan. I'm sitting at the table at his desk, and this girl, I kid you not, her phone starts ringing, and she goes, "Hello."
Oh my God.
FaceTime in class.
Yeah.
She's like, no, I'm in class right now. And dude, my face, when I tell you, I was just like, I said, what are you doing? And she goes, FaceTiming. And I said,
No, I see what you're doing.
And I said, why would you like, and she goes, well, she called me.
Oh my God.
And I literally, dude, I'm like, Mason,
God.
I got this one. I'm like, I stand up. I'm like,
Take it away.
I said, when you understand in life, you have decisions that can be made. There's a right decision and a wrong decision. When you learn that you can take ownership over your own decisions, like good things can happen. I said, that's clearly the wrong decision.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, I was like, I walked out. I was like, dude, I don't know how you do this. Like,
never came back again.
That girl would have been so fast.
That's 45 seconds of your life you'll never get back. 'Cause that advice did not matter to that kid.
Wow.
It's just funny how the little things that the kids do. I tell kids all the time, they'll be on their phone and I call them out all the time. Like, get off. Like, it's a respect thing for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't care. Yeah. That's what I love asking that question. Like, just real quick, how dumb, just honestly, like, how dumb do you think I am? They're like, what? I'm like, do you think I'm stupid? Like, I just need to know. Like, because I see the laptop as you're cheating on it.
Oh my God. It's tough. It's
How
tough.
do we want to do this right now? But how do we wanna do
Well,
this?
can we just stop doing this? But yeah, therefore I tell kids all the time, I say, if I see it again, I'd take your phone, I'm going to throw it through the drywall. See how far it goes through.
Fired.
Yeah, immediately.
No, we're not doing freshmen anymore.
Yeah, so I don't do freshmen anymore.
Nice.
Yeah, seniors, juniors and seniors only. But yeah, no, it is interesting. I tell kids all the time with kids, and especially athletes, and the high school that I'm at and I was coaching at, we have 5 people in the league right now for football. And so they always talk about it, and it is who is in your group, right? Like who's pushing you and who, are there some guys that are just riding your coattails? And sure, they probably are, but how important are they to you and your group? Mm-hmm. And that's going to be the give or take.
And our
of
viewers
success.
know this, but you guys don't know this. He was in left tackle in high school.
Oh
but he
my
also,
gosh!
He
Is this
he,
like a
he got to
running?
play quarterback for 2 snaps and did throw a touchdown.
Is this
pass.
like a running joke
Yeah,
between you
yeah,
and
it
Mitchell?
is. And Evan
Gotta
Ingram,
tell you,
you know,
how
the tight
many-
end for the Jags.
Yeah,
who
like how
caught
many
it.
times can we throw this in?
Oh,
So-
it's so
that.
great.
Yeah, I love
we,
that.
we
Footage
mentioned
is-
it. We mentioned it pretty
What
much
are you talking about
every.
running the coach? Just live that, man. Live that. That was
I
you.
can't.
I love
Either
that.
either hand it off to Kenyon Drake, my running back, or throw it to Evan Ingram.
I love that.
I mean, you could have done
It's
either
great.
or.
Yeah.
Or you could have just like side shuffle it.
I'll tell you this. I think I had more touchdown passes that game than the starting quarterback.
Oops.
Yeah, 'cause he snap, toss left, toss right.
Yeah,
That's
his
great.
dad knew what he was doing.
Just run behind this guy or just hand it off to this guy.
Yeah, Kenyon.
great.
Well, Kenyon would start behind me, and then he would quickly surpass where I was, and then
You're like this, and you're like,
I'll put it this way: we kicked off that game, and in one play we were up 7-0, and we kicked off.
Sounds like Tennessee Vandy.
Wow.
yeah.
Ooh,
Unfortunately,
All right,
but
all right.
it's-
Don't
there's truth in every joke.
Don't
We
take
get
that.
it.
That
We
was
get
a
it.
joke.
Uh,
That's only one sport.
No, well, I mean, I appreciate you guys coming on.
Yeah,
This
thank
is
you guys.
literally-
It's awesome.
means a
guys.
lot to us. If any imparting wisdom to
Oh, I
leave.
thought I gave it
So-
all.
Okay,
Yeah.
then, then we're good.
Might be empty.
No, but we
now.
appreciate-
Respected, like you're saying, man, and you touched it too, man. That is one of the biggest things where we unfortunately just had someone on our staff pass away, and that was such like a guy that we loved and respected. You never know, like those guys are part of our family. Those guys are part of our group, and well, we can just even say we never know when we're going to see each other again. But at the same time, it's like we all know how much we meant to Otis, and how much like everything with the Cubs meant to him. So
Truly gave his life too. That
yeah,
50
so-
years in baseball, man.
Wow.
And like,
and why he did that, I mean, there's plenty because Danny's doing it now, but just respect everyone, man. Like I know we ask for it when we're on the field, but it's those guys behind the scenes that do everything for us. And like you're saying, man, like we've all had our little moments, and we all want the respect, and that's the one thing that takes me off when guys like don't respect those guys. And we've seen it in every sport. I've talked to a million people, and respecting your caddies, respecting your it drives people crazy. Right?
I try and tell the young kids all the time, I'm like, listen, I can put up with physical things because this game's hard. We all mess up. We got a lot of growth in that regard. But I will never put up with like bad teammate. Like I will never put up with the negative energy as a teammate, as treating staff members or whoever it may be. Like that's the one thing that I'll never play around with. But yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. I can't follow that up. That was pretty good there.
I'll say the
good
Cubs
one,
do a
yeah.
good job of that too, just as an organization. Just how, I mean, like how Mitchell and I are treated when we come up. Like we don't. This guy teaches ninth grade kid. I mean, like but they treat us with like the utmost respect of just because we're linked into you. I don't know.
The friendly confines, so it's real.
Yeah, no, it's
Cubs
awesome.
do it.
Especially
But thank you guys. I really appreciate
no,
y'all's
thank
Yeah,
time.
you.
thanks guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Guys,
a lot of fun.
Yeah.